Today I got to show you these 5 footwork approaches that all shooters need to have in their bag. One thing we all know is that shooters shoot. And if you're a shooter and you're constantly shooting, then you're always looking for new ways to test and grow your shooting ability. Well, what I've put together for you is 5 different footwork approaches that'll get you thinking about how you set up prior to the shot. I'm going to show you the footwork, the cadence, and everything else. You'll see it. Just pay attention. The most common way that shooters receive the ball is when they're at a dead standstill and there's a drive and kick or a post and kick out. Because of this, the very first approach we're going to work on is stand and shoot. One of the things I like to focus on stand and shoot is I always like to get my feet moving. So even if I'm standing here and I'm shooting, I'm going to step into a 1-2 step. Now, I played at the highest level, so I got the opportunity to work with some of the best shooting coaches anywhere. Some of them will tell you to use a 1-2 step cadence, while some will teach a 2-step hop on the catch. I've shot it both ways. It doesn't really matter. I prefer the 1-2 cadence. It's all about consistency, and at the end of the day, locking out the elbow are the only 2 things you really need to do. Now, our very first drill is so simple because all you're going to do is make your shots from a standstill. Now, our second approach is going to be from a forward run. This most often happens when there's a steal or a broken play that's causing the shooter to come back into the action downhill towards the 3-point line. Some important components of this approach is you don't want to approach too fast and cause the passing lanes to shut down. Because of this, it can be a difficult shot for many shooters because they're not used to timing their steps in order to keep the passing lane open. So as you can see, I'm coming down and I'm having to wait on this ball, and then I'm here. You're trying to time your steps to meet that ball. Now, our third footwork approach is a lift cut. We're going to take our momentum up away from the goal in order to receive the shot. You may see this type of action, whether it's a set play, whether it's a motion and the ball handler drives towards the shooter and they're having to provide spacing.
It's pretty simple. After you pass the ball, after a drive, cut to the 3-point line. A lot of times, your defender will pat themselves.
The most important parts on this footwork approach is the ability to clear the paint, turn the hips, and then bring the momentum back towards the ball, similar to what we did on the stationary shot. Now, our fourth footwork approach is coming from a side angle towards the ball. This type of action occurs normally throughout the course of an offense.
Typically, when you think of pin down screening action, the shot cut is what comes to mind for most basketball fans. Again, when there's already a lot of space between.
Generally, there's a cutter and the shooter is responsible for filling that space. So they're approaching the ball, hands ready to receive the shot. The hips are going to go from facing the ball and rotate towards the rim after the catch. This is one of the most common actions that most shooters work on, so it'll be familiar to most of them. And our fifth footwork approach is going to be from a side angle going away from the ball. You may see this action again when there's a broken play or when the shooter is too close to the ball handler and needs to make space.
The third read is my personal favorite, the flat cut. When the defender tries to cheat and go under the screen, the offense flares out to the corner. Steph Curry is probably the best at this read, and here he is doing it to perfection.
It's basically going to involve an inside foot drive while keeping the hands ready for the receipt. A lot of times you'll see the ball handler is really close and driving the lane. The shooter has to make room and go away from the ball. This is an approach that most shooters aren't used to because they're trained to come towards the ball. It's very unfamiliar for them to go away from the ball. because as the ball's coming towards them, they actually have to come back towards the ball. That involves different parts of the brain, and sometimes it's difficult for those shots to be made. I'll use this drill with my shooters and mix it up. Sometimes we'll do a set of all 5 approaches. Sometimes we'll do one approach and make a certain number of shots, then switch to the next approach. But I generally use all 5 approaches if we're working on footwork that day. I'll show you what it looks like in live action. First, we have our stationary approach, catch, 1, 2, and shoot. Next, we have our downhill approach. We're just gonna creep downhill, 1, 2. Next, we have our side angle, boom, 1, 2. Then we have our side angle away, boom, drive off the inside foot, 1, 2. Last, we have our lift cut, coming from the bottom, lifting up, turning the hips, making the shot. I hope this helps all your shooters get to the next level. And don't forget to check out our Better Ball Handling series. It's chock full of drills that are sure to take your handle to the next level. Let's go.